go ahead and just show you where we have the watches and warnings. So if you look, there's that tornado warning in that northwest corner of Lycoming County. I'll show you more on that in just a minute. Rest of central Pennsylvania has that flood watch, but we're going to stay on the air now for a while because of this system right here. We're keeping a close eye on that. There's a few other systems that were traveling to the northeast, and we were keeping an eye on those. So the National Weather Service pulled the trigger on this one, some cloud-to-ground lightning. Not really seeing that bold comma shape outline on it, but nevertheless, there could be the possibility of some, again, rotation in the clouds, which is why we're zooming in. So this system is moving to the southeast, and it's right there, as you can see, along Route 414, 664. It's moving southeast. I want to go back to this image here for just a second. Let me back out. And again, we want to go to this corner right here. And we're going to continue to watch this. Let me put it into motion for you. And I can go slow. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Jamie. There you go. So there's that one storm system right there, and they are moving. We're going to watch them very closely. Yep, and let's go ahead and loop it now. And there we go. I'm just doing it manually because I like it when you go manually. You can kind of take your time and see just the development of this and how it's moving in. And there's that storm system right there, if you're wondering. So let me just do this. Jeremy, if you could pull up for us the best things for people to do when we have a tornado warning and they're in the path. So here's the path, Hepburn at 6:08. This tornado warning is set to expire at 6 o'clock. So if you see any state game lands, not a lot of population there, snow school.
That's one good thing about this storm is that it is in a location that's more rural than most areas here in central and northeastern Pennsylvania. But you can see clearly there on that left-hand side of the storm, there is somewhat of a hook on it, and that's kind of the rotation that the National Weather Service is seeing. You can see it right here.
Yep. It's looking a little bit better than what it was just a little bit ago.
Yep, but still lightning strikes involved, maybe even some small hail, a maximum size of 0.75 inches, so over the size of a penny, maybe a quarter-sized piece of hail coming out of that cloud. So even if you don't see a tornado, you're going to see some pretty strong straight-line winds with this storm, as well as the possibility of some hail.
And if you look at that, it's diving southeast. You can see the potential for some hail there as it was just beginning to move in to Lycoming County. We've been keeping an eye on this, but a couple of other storms, too, look pretty nasty out ahead of this that we're moving in the direction that we don't like, which is northeast rather than southeast, which is more, I guess you could call developmental for tornadic activity. But there's that storm system, the reason that we're on the air right now. And I want to go ahead and put on the now image. And so, Jeremy, for people at home that are watching this and they're seeing this moving towards them. So there you go, Trout Run at 626. Even though it may not be a tornado, it could be just a strong thunderstorm. They should take shelter. Could we go to Max 2? Max 2 for a second?
And I'll go to the big monitor so we can show you full screen what you should do when you are in a tornado warning. You want to head to the basement. The basement is always the safest place to be because it gets you and the outside as far away as possible. You want to go to the lowest level of your home. If that is the basement for you, that's great. If not, maybe it's the bottom of a staircase. You want to get as many walls between you if you live in that northwestern corner of Lycoming County, between you and the outdoors as possible. Make sure that you're not trying to look outside the window to see if you see a tornado coming. This is the time that you need to shelter in place if you live in northwestern Lycoming County. Get under a table if you don't have a basement. Put on a helmet even. If you start to notice increasing winds outside, you can hear it coming through your windows. So make sure that you try and get as far away as possible from the outside. And before you do dash to your safe place, turn the TV up because we'll continue to stream here live until 6 o'clock, until this tornado warning either expires or if it's extended past 6 o'clock, which I don't expect it to, we'll continue to stay on the air here, keeping you updated and let you know when you're severe clear in your safe place. Kurt, of course, the best place to be is when you are as far away from the outdoors as possible. But even if you aren't, in this path of the thunderstorm, you might hear these thunderstorms coming towards you, seeing the darker clouds. Even if you're not in northwestern Lycoming County, we're also seeing these thunderstorms popping up for Union and Snyder counties, some thunderstorms in Luzerne County right now, Wyoming County too. And these are strong, not yet severe, but we're looking at these characteristics of some storms that are moving in a different way than others. So the one there in northwestern Lycoming County, starting to move, taking that dive to the south and east, which is something that makes it different than the rest, and that may cause it to have that rotation that it needs to create a tornado.
Right. And if we go back to Max 1 for a minute here, I'm just kind of putting a diagram together for you so that you can see. I've got two arrows on there. So the one that we're under the tornado warning is the one just north of Williamsport. That's actually heading towards Billtown, so you need to be aware of that. But then notice the green arrow just to the southeast of Beaver Springs, and look at how those storms are moving northeast. These are some of the storms that we were talking about earlier. The reason this is happening is because there's a cold front moving into Coudersport. You see that? That cold front's pushing to the southeast. That's why the ones that are coming from the northwest are diving southeast. Out ahead of a front, you've heard us talk about it many times, the flow comes out of the southwest. So when the flow comes out of the southwest, it has a tendency to push storms to the northeast. So what you have going on is you have a front pushing south. At the same time, out ahead of the front, you have a stronger southwest flow. So that's why it's interesting to see on the same map, same viewing area within a few counties, Jeremy.
Yep.
You got storms moving in completely different directions. Right.
Yep, and I'm looking at the correlation coefficient,
Vorticity,
which we call
yep.
vorticity, right? Mm-hmm. And that is the coupling of rotation. And it doesn't seem to me like there is a strong coupling of the rotation, so that's at least good. It might just be conflicting winds in this storm, and it might not even be at the surface. You know, National Weather Service triggers a tornado warning not like it used to be when it was at Penobscot Mountain and you had to see the tornado on the ground, right?
Right.
When we had our radar there. Now, if we see any rotation, if the National Weather Service radar indicates rotation in the cloud in any level, whether that's at the bottom of the cloud where it's actually reaching the surface or in the mid-levels of the clouds, it will trigger a tornado warning. So we might be seeing this rotation. It might not have made contact with the ground just yet, but nonetheless, it is enough of a threat that you should get in your safe space if you live anywhere in that tornado warning in any of those areas, any of those cities.
And as I mentioned before, I mean, this warning is only going 20, 25 minutes. I mean, we've seen them extended even longer than that.
Right.
But I do think this one will be allowed to expire. But with that said, it doesn't mean that it's not problematic for people that are going to be in the line of this. Go ahead and zoom in on, that's the storm right there.
Yep.
Let me just back it out a little bit. It's in that northwest corner of Williamsport, just northwest of Williamsport. So this is the direction that it's traveling here. So as you can see, Trout Run, 611, Old Lycoming, 621, Williamsport, 624, and 628, Williamsport Regional Airport. That is the area. So this is why we're on the air right now, is because of this scenario right here, this tornado warning. And let me just see, do we have central Pennsylvania? No, I want to see if I can switch out.
Yep, and I'm going to quickly talk about the fact that you notice all those times that Kurt was just talking about, those are past the 6 o'clock hour, past the expiration of the tornado warning. So just because that's past the expiration of the tornado warning doesn't mean that this storm isn't going to lose intensity. It might still be pretty strong, just maybe not capable of producing that tornado.
Now watch this. I was showing this in earlier shows. Future radar, this is a model we use quite a bit, as you know. Look at this, actually intensifies. As that front pushes south, look at that. And those are some downpours, flooding. That's why the flood watch has been issued. That could be very problematic for areas with poor drainage, some of the smaller streams and creeks. And if you look at the time on that, Jeremy, this is starting at around 5:30, and this takes us all the way down, and it's still over the Lewisburg-Sunbury area by 9. There's 10 o'clock. Now it's just winding down. So that
we have a long night ahead of us.
Yeah, that could be very problematic for you folks in central Pennsylvania.
And something else we're also worried about is seeing those conflicting directions of storms. That indicates conflicting winds. That's wind shear. And wind shear helps to develop tornadoes. If you have conflicting winds, it causes rotation in the atmosphere, and that's what can cause a rotating tube like a tornado to make contact with the ground. So we're going to track these very closely, these conflicting storms with different directions that may enhance some rotation as we go through the next few hours. hours. But the one we're worried about right now as far as producing a tornado is the one in northwestern Lycoming County over Camel. If you live close by Route 414, that's some place that you should be sheltering in place right now. This storm is dangerous. It does have the capability of producing a tornado. And there's a lot of lightning strikes with it too. Cloud to ground lightning is of course a dangerous problem. And if you find yourself outside or you're planning on going out, wait this storm out. This is not one you want to be caught outside in.
Yep, and there's a close-up of it. Once again, we'll just highlight some of the communities that could be impacted by this storm. And as Jeremy mentioned, it's definitely going to be more of an issue for these places after 6 o'clock. But just to give you an idea, let me go ahead and re-click that. It's that storm right there that you see just west of Trout Run. And there's Route 44. 654, 973. Those are some of the towns that could be impacted by this storm. National Weather Service has this going until 6 o'clock. And I'm just looking, if we could come back here just for a second, if we could come back to the severe weather set. You can see the direction that it's heading and where it's going. But also worth mentioning, Jeremy, here we have our slack up. This is why we have the severe weather set. And as you can see, these are just coming in right now. These are just some of the issues. Western central Lycoming County, central Pennsylvania, severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. So not actually seeing a funnel cloud on the ground, but picking it up on radar. And you can see what that can entail with the impact, Jeremy.
Yeah, of course. And what we're noticing also is how slow these storms are moving. 15 miles an hour. Normally we see thunderstorms zip past in 35, 40 miles per hour, right? This one's moving at 15. So it also has the potential of producing some flash flooding maybe. With some heavy downpours over a prolonged period of time, you might end up having some flash flooding in those places that normally do see it, those underpasses, streams and creeks overspilling their banks, and areas like that as well.
And the other thing I want to point out, and I was going to mention this during the weather at 5:45, but we're in here now because of what's going on out there. But there's been quite a bit of severe weather to our south in southern Pennsylvania. Matter of fact, all the gold areas you see there, I'll zoom in, you can see
near
they
State
got
College in Altoona.
Flood warnings, they've got all kinds of stuff. We haven't had any of those. We've had a flash flood watch, but now we have that tornado warning, but we haven't had any severe thunderstorm warnings either.
Right.
So we went right from just a flood watch, no
warnings whatsoever as far as severe thunderstorm warnings.
Correct.
To a tornado warning right away.
And no watches either. The only exception there is when you come down
Snyder
into
County.
Snyder, and looks like just a little bit there of Schuylkill County too. So that's it. The only two areas in our viewing area that have been under that severe thunderstorm watch. Let's go back to the radar. We'll put it into motion. Excuse me. And as you can see, we'll put that into motion for you. There it is. So it came down from Coudersport, Wellsboro, those areas, and it's pushing to the southeast. And then if you look back towards Renova.
That's starting to look a little dangerous as well. And the fact that we have all these conflicting motions within the atmosphere, this storm rolling down from the north towards Jersey Shore, the one that has the tornado warning tag on it. Now this one's starting to blossom over Clinton County, just to the east, south now of Renova. That's going to have a confluence of these conflicting motions, and that might also lend to the blossoming of these storms as far as intensity.
So when you look at this, I'm going to put it on the nowcast for a minute. So when you look at this, all right, so this is the area that has the tornado warning right here.
Yes.
Okay, so that's converging on Billtown. This is the area that you were just referring to right there, right? So these two storms may be merging. And this takes me back to this. Watch how future radar depicts that merger. And again,
right over Lycoming County.
Yeah, right over Williamsport. Look at that. So that's why I'm saying we could be looking at some very strong downpours and some flooding issues out there.
So for those of you who live in Lycoming County, Union Snyder County, Northumberland County, this is going to be the beginning of a pretty dangerous night as far as flooding possibilities.
Right. The good news is, though, once we get past 9 o'clock, even future radar showing things start wrapping up, certainly over central Pennsylvania, and then our southern tier after, say, 10, 11 o'clock. So we're watching it, but the two areas that we're just talking about, and again, we'll point those out. I'm keeping an eye on Slack. I wiped away the last thing. And again, that's our up to the second information from the National Weather Service. We're watching that. We come over here, and we're seeing these two. Yeah, I just updated it there. So the last thing that we have is still on that tornado warning.
When it was issued,
Yeah,
right, at
yeah.
5:37.
And as you mentioned earlier, if you're just joining us, there was hail reported about 3/4 of an inch in size in Lycoming County. And we've had tornado warnings in other places in Pennsylvania, but not here. And what you're looking at is Max 1. And the tornado warning is the one coming down from northwestern Lycoming County. And then the other storm that Jeremy and I are watching very closely is the one coming in from Renova.
Right. And
so
I have
those
to-
two could merge, and that's why we're talking about future radar.
And I have to tell you, Kurt, I do think that the tornado warning will probably be allowed to expire in the next few minutes.
Okay.
The rotation within the storm is not as strong, but we're starting to see a little bit of rotation in that storm that's over Clinton County, just to the south of Renova now. So we're not out of the woods yet. We could be continuing to see maybe another tornado warning issued later on tonight. We will be continuing to watch this situation. Right
And
now,
also-
the only tornado warning we have, though, is for the one in Lycoming County. And I do
Lycoming
think that
County.
will be expired
Yeah,
in the
that's
next few
that's
minutes.
about to expire. But look
Yep.
at the one down towards Lewisburg and Sunbury. That's another strong
Right.
storm system, and I'll just zoom in on that. That one not only has cloudy ground, lightning, wind, also the potential for some hail, and that is moving. So we're gonna let me just put that one into motion and give you an idea which direction. Yeah, that one is also moving east, but that might merge. Look at the one
Yep.
coming up from the southwest, from Fayette. Yep, into Beaver Springs. Look at that. Those two could merge. So I want to go back to future radar real fast here, and that's exactly what this thing is picking up. It's a little slow on the one to the southwest, but that's exactly what it's picking up, which is why the National Weather Service, in case you missed it earlier, has that flood watch for central Pennsylvania. We have the tornado warning until 6, which is why we're on the air now, but we have that flood watch. So this could be pretty nasty here,
Yes, it
as,
could be.
as you were mentioning
Yep.
a little bit later on. So we think it's just about 6 o'clock. We think that tornado warning will be allowed to expire. So for now, we're going to go ahead and throw it to commercial break. If there's any more, tornadic activity, anything like that, severe weather sets fired up, we'll have you covered.
Absolutely.
We're going to send it to break right now for Jeremy and myself. We'll be right back.
Lebanon.